Abbiamo deciso che apro io e faccio i saluti.
Right, I'm going to start.
Tutti, sono Matteo Farsura, sono
Good morning, everybody. I'm Matteo Farsura, director of the Jewellery Fairs of the Italian Exhibition Group. Thank you very much for being here. This is our second day, and we're very happy of the results that we are seeing. So we can see that there is a very positive feedback, but we still have several days ahead of us. Vicenza Oro today is a moment for trade, for business, as well as a platform where you learn, where you can expand your network. And this year, we have summarized the values of Vicenza Oro in 3 words: people, products, and places. And I have to say that the most recent events organized by Assogemme have actually gone through people, products, and places, experiencing our world in a very personalized way. In the term people, we can find the DNA of the formats of Assogemme event. So I'm looking forward to listening to another fascinating story, to get to know how gemstones and colors are selected here at Vicenza Oro, as well as outside Vicenza Oro. So thank you very much for being here. Enjoy the talk. Thank you, Matteo. Good evening, and thank you very much for being here so numerous this evening. Sorry, as usual, I have to read my notes. I'm very shy, and I really can't speak unless I've got my piece of paper in my hands. However, since I've written it down, that should help me. Good afternoon, everybody. As our many friends who are here have perceived, those who always attend our meetings, here in this room with our guests, we are going to talk about jewelry, but especially we're talking about life. We're going to talk about ourselves, because it is our experiences, even before our knowledge, that give value to what we share. So I share my life when I organize these events and when I look for speakers. Together we approve of the themes and of the topics of these very short meetings. Don't worry, I've written it in very big letters, so it's not going to be too long. These are all colorful snapshots of our life. Maybe black and white lives are more sober. They do not have ups and downs, they do not have oscillations. Maybe they're smoother. Maybe they're easier. I say maybe because actually I do not know. I can't even imagine this kind of life. I can't because my choice was and still is that of living in color. And I couldn't have done it differently. I live amongst colored gems. My wife, a true creative talent, helps me in choosing the colors and the combinations. My daughter has been named Azzurra. Not white, bianca, but Azzurra. And I have a granddaughter, a 2-year-old granddaughter that in her name includes all the colors of nature. She's called Flora. So I live surrounded by colored gemstones, and apart from my family, I have customers and employees who bring their own specific color, their own specific hardness, their own specific imperfections. and we know how valuable these are. Loving colors, living of colors, also means highlighting diversity, allowing everybody to shine in their own frequency, in their own wavelength, trying to harmonize these characteristics so that they can contribute to the common well-being. It is tiring, but any artificial choice is doomed to fail. It is a difficult but winning decision, as proven by the experience presented today by Loredana. A reality like many other ones that we have already presented that has blurred the border between fashion and jewelry, that has reduced the distance between what is ephemeral and what is perennial. And most likely this was done by tapping one of the sources shared by these two universes, representing oneself, making use of other elements in some cases that the two universes have in common, volumes and colors. This has been done by making use of the values shared by the two universes. Recognition of professionalism, identity, stressing specifically the Italian identity that can we find in embroidery and in filigree, thanks to precious hands and expert craftsmen. To Loredana and Raffaele, I would like now to leave the floor so that they can take us through stories of colors, creative individuals, minds, craftsmen, gemologists, geologists, and customers. Thank you very much.
Grazie Paolo. Benvenuti. Prima di lasciare la parola
Welcome to all of you. Before giving the floor to Loredana, I would like to tell you two stories very, very quickly to introduce today's topic, which is color. Color as an element of storytelling. When, in a previous life, I used to work in jewelry marketing, once to define the positioning of a brand, we invented 3 different categories of jewelry. The must jewelry, like the wedding band or pearls for a middle-class lady to be worn with a little black dress. Then the jewel of power, proving how much power you have. And then the jewelry for pleasure, the one that you buy for yourself because you like it. These 3 categories can be stratified with another category, which is the narrative jewelry, the jewelry that tells a story. Jewelry is a speaking item, a speaking object. It is a narration metaphor. What does a piece of jewelry tell, and how does it tell a story? Well, jewels tell us a lot about the people who wear it and the people who gave it as a gift. It is a metaphor of the personality of the giver and of the wearer. So the piece of jewelry tells us about people, and it is like a question. They're open and closed questions, and they're jewels with a closed narration. The bridal big stones. The story is, my fiancé has a lot of money. That's a closed narration. And then we have jewels with an open narration, which are usually more interesting. And in these narrative jewels, we can tell something about ourselves as members of a group. Family jewels tell about us as members of a family. Then we have ethnic jewelry. For instance, the Napolitan jewels that keep you safe from bad luck. Then we have tribal jewels that indicate that we're part of that tribe, a social class, a group of people believing in something. But how can jewels tell so much? Well, there are customers that develop these stories. Most customers have listened to these stories and retell these stories, so they actually support a narration that has come from somebody else. And for this to be possible, a piece of jewelry must have somebody telling a story and having a story to tell. This is true for jewelry. It is also true for water. You know, we can see from this bottled water that it is a complement of the Vicenza Fair, that is keen about the environment, so much so that the cap is plant-based, so easy to recycle. And this has been made in Tuscany, and it is not fizzy water. We don't care about that, but it is some extra information that allows us to tell more about this product. Today, for lunch, I found on the table this Millennium Water by San Benedetto. What does Millennium Water mean? It means absolutely nothing. But it is a metaphor because it makes us think about something that is really old but also contemporary. We are in the year 2000 and something. It is a natural water that comes from the ancient source of health, of course. So this is an ancient water that is good for yourself, for your body. So much so that it actually was born in its purity 5,000 years ago. So purity and antiquity in a can of water. So how much can you tell about your jewels using these simple words? For a piece of jewelry to express its complete value, especially when the raw material is very expensive, we need a narrative content which has to be truthful, easy, and reportable. One of these elements is a brand. Oh, the price is high only because it is a brand piece of jewelry. No, it costs more because the brand is an extreme complex system of narration. By wearing that branded jewel, I am telling about all those values that two creative people have introduced in their life and in their brand. And this potentiates a narration system that can be based on a specific quality, characteristic in the raw material, in the craftsmanship, in the culture expressed, in the competence, in gemstone selection. It could also be that some jewels have an ethical aspect. They can also be a cultural instrument. But there is also another element, which is a key element, that we frequently find in meetings like this one: creativity. And then there is another element that can be used to narrate jewelry: color. Color is a very strong narrative element. It is archetypal. There are huge cultural differences, of course, but color talks to you immediately. It is the interpretation of color that contributes to a fundamental storytelling. Right, maybe this was a pretty long introduction. And therefore, let me leave the floor straight away to Loredana, because together with Loredana, we want to tell you how a brand, which is a brand of colorful vibrations, uses color to tell stories. The first thing I wanted to tell you, or better, the first thing I would like Loredana to tell you, relates to colors, but only partially. You know, I've had a white beard for quite some time now, and I cannot but quote Plato and Aristotle, telling us that colors oscillate between two extremes, white and black. Is there, in Dolce & Gabbana's past, an idea of the oscillation of colors between white and black?
Yes, absolutely. But I absolutely agree with you on a number of points, both individually, personally, but also professionally. In my firm, Dolce Gabbana started making jewels, watches way back in 2008. So I started working there in 2008. Since 2008 to date, I have been with this company because what is in common between Mr. Dolce and Gabbana with my company, together with all of you, together with Paolo, Azzurra, and many other people from this industry, what we have in common, all of us, is the passion for beauty. What is fine? Use the materials that are being given to us by nature. As Paolo said, when I jumped in with Dolce Gabbana, one of the things I appreciate is that they told me, we would like to make jewels not just fine and beautiful, we would like them to tell a story, a narrative, where the materials are given to us for free by nature would allow us to tell that story, that narrative. So something natural, and making something out of pleasure are two pillars at the basis of our collections. Having said that, I could have been, much longer in this. Moving on quickly to colors, well, the designers, through the gemstones, really managed to relate their stories through and by means of jewels. You may know that my company is one company where the two outstanding people, Mr. Dolce and Gabbana, are polar opposites. I mean, both geographically, because Mr. Dolce is from Sicily, Mr. Gabbana, comes from close to Milan. But there's also polar opposites in terms of creation and sentiments and emotions, feelings, which is the reason why many of their collections were inspired by these two colors. And some of them do not define them colors, but achromatic colors. These two colors being white, black and white, they are two opposed colors, but without one, the other cannot exist. I cannot associate one or another color to one of these two designers, because these two colors, black and white, really move further away and closer one to the other to their collections. The collections were born for jewels and watches, thinking of gemstones, which would, convey the idea of this contrast between black and white. The first collections, Cecil and Devotion, that was the name, had as a protagonist a black gemstone. That was the first hurdle that I had to get over as a professional, because the designers that already had a very, deep gemological knowledge, very much focused on their passion, was using black as a color, but not diamonds. Not diamonds because at the time they thought it was much too shiny, too new. One of my suggestions was to collect this gemological material, black material, onyx, black spinel, and the choice was in favor of black sapphire. Black sapphire, just like black and white, is not defined. Black sapphire, quote unquote, Loredana, this makes me really think of when we were explaining about gemology. It does not exist. It's a very dark blue that looks like being black. But this special color was very much appreciated by the designer. So since '08, many fine jewelry items that you will find in a boutique have in them a black sapphire. And by contrast, a color gemstones. We wanted to push black sapphire closer to the other gemstones, and to then use the color gem, which is diamonds. Natural diamond. Plato, between black and white, introduced a central color, which is red. How much red do you have in your collections? What is the meaning of red? Well, red is part of our collections. Being creative is living on passion. And passion, as I see it, recalls the red color. So for Dolce & Gabbana, red is passion, stands for fire, wish to create it, to blow up. Passion is also seen as I will experience a big love. But love in Dolce & Gabbana is not just love in a couple, but also love, absolute love, that may exist between two friends, a parent, a son, grandpa, and grandchildren. I mean, it really runs cross-sectionally through these people. So in red in garments, clothes, and jewels, red has primarily this role that is of transmitting, conveying passion. And for this kind of red, we pick up what kind of gemstones of different value, but these gemstones have their own identity to be told, which is different. Maybe they also have a different commercial value, but nonetheless important. By all means, it makes you think of ruby, and we use rubies in unique items and pieces, and we even go as far as using very special rubies because by their carat weight and quality, they are no longer rare, in fact, unique. But there's many red gemstones that we use. The red spinel that on the market is becoming a very appreciated gemstone as an alternative to ruby, but also granite. Red is one of the most important colors, but red tourmalines, bellites, as they are called, they cover all the color nuance and palette, which is not pure red, but it's shaded with a bit of rose, purple, like sentiments and emotions. They are never pure. They are contaminated in a positive way. To close on this, in the Dolce Gabbana world, red is very much connected to nature, fruiting that you would eat, in one single swoop, like cherries or other fruit that for Sicilians, for our southern part of the country, is very important, which is tomato. So we have a unique piece that we manufacture where the protagonist was the tomato, and the idea of the jewel was pizza. Across the various shades of red, I heard that you mentioned rose, which has been a variant to red and not necessarily linked there's a lot of pink in your collections. What is the meaning of this? Yes, we have a lot of pink. Also, for women and men likewise. So pink is the cross-sectional color for jewels and watches. The key meaning is grace, kindness. The first image that comes to your mind is something very feminine. Our designers and also we working with them, we love art. And by loving art, we have unveiled painters like Tiepolo, painters who have used pink, making it their distinctive trait. In Milan, there's a wonderful palace or building with this corridor of tapestry, and the ceiling is all painted by Tiepolo. Tiepolo has used these brush strokes of magnificent pink, but endless pink shades and nuances. Well, in many of our jewels, our designers would like to repropose by using gemstones the endless nuances of pink. Nature is helping us because in gemology, the world of pinks is very rich. You start from pink sapphires that are becoming increasingly difficult to find on the market when completely natural. And then the spinels coming from the Vietnam, they are also pink and they have a great intensity, all the way down to less noble gemstones, but equally fine and beautiful, quartzite and morganite, and then rose quartz with a special cut. It has its own identity that makes it unique in its own genre.
Right. So, if I understood you correctly, blue is the opposite of red. Red is warmth, blue is coldness. Which is the meaning of blue in your collections? Well, Dolce & Gabbana do not have the word cold. Everything is warm for us. And also blue is a warm color. It is a color that Mr. Dolce and Mr. Gabbana associate with nobility, but they mean a noble soul, noble objectives, discipline in one's life and profession. So these noble characteristics can be interpreted by the blue color, which is used both for watches and jewelry, and most likely also in this case, gems allow us to find blue gemstones such as blue sapphires, which are amongst the best known blue gems, but also tanzanite that have this amazing color, which is not the navy blue of sapphires, but it is blue with some purple nuances, a beautiful color. Then we also have matte gemstone that can be engraved, such as lapis lazuli. So through the color blue, we tell the story of noble intents. And as our designers told us, bees, insects that work a lot, do not see all the colors, but one color that they perceive is blue. And very often, blue color is used to attract bees in beekeeping. So blue means discipline, the capability of moving forward with a noble spirit. Another color which is connected with blue is the color of the sea. Homer tells us that the sea is the color of wine. I can't think which type of wine they used to drink at that time. But having said this, which is the color of your sea? Light blue, azzurro, like Paolo's daughter. So our sea is absolutely blue. But it's not just one type of blue. Blue has many, many nuances. It can be the blue of the sea in Sicily, relating to Mr. Dolce, but it is also the blue of the different seas of our peninsula. So it is sea blue, marine blue, which is easy for us to represent, but we do not represent this with aquamarine alone. Of course, aquamarine is the best representation of the sea, but there are many other gemstones, including Parahiba, which has become so rare, almost impossible to find on the market with that amazing blue color. But there are other blue gemstones like jasper. Our designers a few years ago designed a beautiful piece of jewelry made of different jasper gemstones with different blue nuances, all natural gemstones. And it was not easy because we had to reflect all those nuances that they had in their mind, making use of natural-only gemstones. It was not easy. So blue means sea. But it also means sky, because when you look towards the horizon, you see the sea and then get lost in the sky. My mom is French. And when I was little, I was very proud of my French origin. And one of the elements of this French origin was that French cars had yellow beams, whereas in Italy, cars had white beams. I can imagine that this was due to the fact that yellow perhaps is more visible in fog, and at least it is a color that can be seen from far away. So how do you use yellow? Well, yellow is another color which is at the base of our world, because yellow means Sicily, both in terms of the sun of Sicily and in terms of the lemons from Sicily. Today, I had a piece of cake that was made with lemons. Lemons have an amazing fragrance and allow you to cook fantastic dishes. So yellow is the strong, live sun of Sicily and Sicilian lemons. How do we represent them? Well, in some cases, our jewelry features lemons that are totally made by a pave of yellow sapphires. Jewelry is nothing flat for us. It is three-dimensional. It is alive. In other cases, yellow becomes something even warmer. It is the yellow of the sun. And then we use berylliums, also called heliodors because they recall the sun. But we also have other yellow gemstones, such as citrine quartz, which, when it is cut in the right way and combined inside a piece of jewelry where the predominant color is yellow, really makes the jewel shine and recall the sun and something very warm and alive. So apart from the research that we have always carried out on gemstones, we pay attention to the use of different gemstones that must be totally natural. And we have also tried to make use of different color gold. Yellow gold can take on different colors, 2 and 3 on, and that's a technical classification, but we also have rose gold. And also in that case, it is still the effect of the color of gold that also becomes narrative together with the gemstones. Before, you spoke of a gemstone that was blue with purple nuances. So this color, which is a purpley red color, is an element that is recurrent in your collections. Absolutely. purple red, I mean, we have already spoken about red, which is passion and love. For our designers, there is not one single type of love. Red has many nuances, just like love. And the color amongst the reds that is best associated with our collections and our love is purple red, which is related to a flower, a beautiful flower which is typical of Sicily but that can be found along the Italian coast, which is bougainville. And bougainville also have a specific meaning because it is placed usually at the entrance of houses. It is the welcoming flower. So if you make use of gemstones in your jewelry or in your watch that have this purpley color, it is like welcoming people. And which gemstones recalls bougainville in its color? Rubellite. Rubellite is a tourmaline that is characterized by many different nuances in nature, and when it has that nuance, that purplish nuance, which is typical of Nigeria and other African countries, it actually becomes a symbol of bougainville. Even though in many of our jewels, the color of nature, the color of bougainville, is obtained making use of enamel. Gold is hand-shaped, creating the leaves of bougainville, and then it is enameled by hand, producing the color that recalls bougainville. There is one last color that we left last, but we could have quoted first. Orange.
Orange is another important color. Easy once more. It reminds us of tangerines, orange, the citrus fruit of Sicily. I don't know how many Italians eat orange and tangerines, especially during the season full of cold. It's really the color of the citrus fruit from Sicily. But orange, in fact, has a deeper meaning. Orange being the color of the end of a new beginning. Orange is the moment, the minute the sun goes away, sunset, and the minute it comes back, that is at dawn. So this is what orange stands for us in gemology. Orange can be found in a few gem stones, but the most iconic one is spessartine granite, which is called mandarino tangerine because it recalls the color of our Sicilian color. But there's also rare and beautiful orange sapphires. So, and citrine. Whenever citrine has a saturated intensity, it tends to move towards the color orange. You may have seen and noticed the amount of passion, the wealth of the narrative. Can you imagine someone in a store that is telling to a customer a piece of the story of the jewel being sold with this amount of passion, with this competence? I think that this is the way to transfer, to give a number of values and meanings that otherwise wouldn't be understood and perceived. I was told, ask for information, have to be honest with you on Loredana. They said, listen, Loredana is a mine of wealth with a very deep knowledge and insights into the world of gemstones. So from what I heard that she said is that color can be a vehicle for a narrative. But I also understood that to talk about colors, it takes a very broad competence. We started speaking about values, and the value of competence is certainly, for sure, what give you the possibility of fascinating us with this competence. If competence were to have a color, my question is, what color would it be? Yes, let me start from the beginning. I think that competence, and this is my personal view that I'd like to share with you, however, I think that competence is the starting point. If we really want to excel and stand out in someone, I can only do that and stand out when I know that I know what I'm talking about. And I realize I'm not excelling when I'm not prepared enough. I mean, and it happened to me. So for me, competence is being capable of preparing, and this only depends on us. I was lucky enough to find along my way in my study career, I'm a geologist by nature. I was lucky to meet Loredana, and I owe everything, the gemological side and knowledge, to her. So I'm what I am thanks to her today. Thanks to her. And ever since, I've always studied, I've always tried to further improve myself, and I decided to change. I was working at the Italian Gemological Institute that I recommend strongly to all of you, not because I was there, but because outside, out there in the world, because I get to travel a lot. In the world, you meet people who got their track record also from different institutes, but the Italian Gemological Institute provides you with a theoretical background and training that if you don't do it that time, you will never do it. That is what makes the difference between you and somebody else. So step one is get ready. Step two, never stop, growing and questioning yourself. When I took this leap, I did it because I thought I was lacking the commercial side, the jewels creativity. Then I was lucky enough to meet these two designers, people of passion, of culture, who leave you enough space and who trust their professionals. Starting a bit later over other brands, because we always call ourselves, grown-up children, but still children over other brands that have a long track record, which we admire. But we decided to start on tiptoe, and they wanted to pick up well-prepared people. Now, back to your question, what color? The color is the color of a rainbow. This is a color that can only be interpreted by someone who has in-depth knowledge. When I look at the sun rays, the light may be defined white, but it's not true. The sunlight is the result, the product of the composition of all rainbow's colors, and I think that this is the kind of color of professionalism. A rainbow. Was it easy for you to get the technical competence be accepted in a world of creative people? No, it wasn't easy. It wasn't. It wasn't because the creative is a mind without limits, unlimited. If you have a competence, whether a gemologist or any other competence, which is not necessarily the competence of creativity, well, it is someone who is very much well-defined within certain well-established boundaries. So I think we had more difficulties than them. I didn't feel professionally challenged, but I had to challenge, by contrast, my milestones when I try to expand them, my confines, and to make sure that by moving them, I could be instrumental for the idea they wanted to achieve. Another recommendation or suggestion that I feel like giving pretty much to all of you, coming from my experience, is please do be elastic, flexible, nimble in life in all fields, because being elastic allows you to get over barriers. It would be very nice to find more elasticity and flexibility to avoid so many ugly things, including wars, which are the order of the day, and allows you to grow, understanding the other, his ideas. This, however, may get your knowledge further grow. We have come nearly to the end, and we've been back to the first issue which was raised, because at the end of the day, these meetings bring stories of life, and this is a story, beautiful story of your internal growth.
Back to colors and brand. I mean, competence. Is there another value which is typical of Dolce & Gabbana jewelry? Which value is it, and which color would it be? Whew, it's a difficult question, because we have spoken about gemologists, but there are many different competencies. The term Italianness is paramount. Italianness means handmade. Because in Italy, and I'm not boasting, I'm just stating a fact, in Italy we have competencies that do not exist in other countries, that they would like to have, but they do not have. Our goldsmithing history is amazing, and it starts from Benvenuto Cellini, who is called Benvenuto, like the bougainville, welcoming the guests. Cellini was a master, and many other masters have followed. Experts in chasing and repoussé who still work today in Italy. But this is not enough, because there are many other competencies, other capabilities and skills. Think about the experts in micro-mosaics. How many mosaics do we see in Rome? And micro-mosaics have played a fundamental role in history. We use micro-mosaic in our jewelry. So Italianness, handmade items, rare items, unique items. They're made of so many colors. I can't quote one single color, but I'm thinking of gray. Why am I thinking of gray? Because gray is that color, non-color, that is born out of the two opposites. We started from black and white, that when mixed together finally meet each other and discover that they're both a little bit gray. Maybe that's the last color that can put everything together and everybody together. We still have 5 minutes. Is there another color and another value you would like to talk about? There are many. Well, let me go back to something that you told us at the beginning. Dolce & Gabbana, as I was telling you before, is still a growing child in this industry. When I met the two designers for the first time, they told me, we want to make a piece of jewelry that is beautiful and reflects our identity. So maybe one last value I would like to draw your attention to is identity. Every one of us is born with our own identity. And in my opinion, we should learn to express our identity in a gentle and intelligent way. I meet many young people today who often want to express their identity, but most likely they haven't recognized their own identity yet, or at least they cannot express it in the correct way. In my opinion, every one of us should focus on our identity, keeping it as it is, without being ashamed of the way we are choosing, because at the end of this journey, looking back, if we have been ourselves, we will be happy and satisfied. Otherwise, we will have lost an opportunity. So Mr. Dolce and Mr. Gabbana are two individuals who have always believed in their identity. When they started together with us, when they embarked on the adventure of jewelry and watches, with the desire of expressing their identity also in this industry, they were fearless. I have met many people who have a very strong identity and creativity, and they should just try. Which color would you give them? The color of bougainville, the welcoming color. Thank you.
Io ringrazio Loredana, ringrazio tutti quanti voi.
Thank you very much, Loredana, and thank you very much to all of you for coming here to listen to this point of view about jewelry. And I wish you all a colorful life, especially of the color you prefer. Thank you.